The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
And others is that the definition is difficult to understand. This is the exact same definition that was used in a tax credit bill earlier this year. It's also been used by 24 other states dealing with sales tax. So the definition is ease of use for processing for our state and for the federal government. Another objection that I've heard is that it will be difficult for the retailers to deal with. SNAP is not a mandatory program. If it's too difficult, they're not required to accept SNAP. They don't have to be involved in the program. However, I do think with point-of-sale systems today that the ease of use is actually a lot easier. We already exclude tobacco, alcohol. Adding more items on there should not be that difficult with technology for the point-of-sale systems. You can actually plug in the definitions into ChatGPT and it gives you a full list of the products in seconds. Another objection was, again with the definition, was why don't we just use the WIC definition? Well, the WIC definition is much more, there's a lot less items in WIC, and so we didn't want to be, take too much out of there. However, with the WIC program, which is Women's, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, they have significantly better outcomes, health outcomes on the WIC program, and soda and candy are excluded from that. So, good body. I believe this is a good bill, and please join me with making Idaho healthy again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Heard the motion. Is there further debate on the motion? Good lady from 18.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the motion.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you. Well, I'm very sympathetic to the desire to get America healthy again, and I think there is probably room for some sensible legislation around SNAP. I do think it should be done at the federal level because it's extremely confusing and difficult to administer a federal program that is in patchwork of 50 states. And the good news is, if you look through your letters, you will see that there is legislation moving through the federal level right now. I think it's the Healthy SNAP Act. So at a basic level, I think it would make a lot of sense to wait for this to be done at the federal level. But I think the bill that's in front of us right now has a very problematic definition. This is not about, the definition is very arbitrary. It's not particularly targeted to, quote, poison to our children. If you look at it, it says candy means a preparation of sugar, honey, or other natural or artificial sweeteners combined with chocolate, fruits, nuts, or other ingredients. So this isn't just banning Twix bars. This bans granola bars. This bans Power bars, and it leaves us in a very arbitrary situation where actually I could see for a low-income family working many jobs actually there's some pretty nutritious Power bars out there. My son is always eating these things that are super protein enriched and have every vitamin and are high in fiber. It seems kind of irrational to me to be banning these highly enriched Power bars while you can still use your SNAP to buy potato chips and Jell-O. This just is not particularly targeted to health. I think that the definition could use some work, and I hope that when the feds address this, they will come up with a more coherent definition that is actually targeted to health. But this unquestionably puts incredible burden on our retailers. You will see on your desk it is opposed by IACI, the Idaho Soft Drink Association, the Idaho Food Bank, the Northwest Grocery Association, and the Idaho Retailers Association. This is going to be incredibly hard for them to figure out, and just have some low-earning grocery checkout person trying to figure out whether whatever is being sold fits within Idaho code. This is not going to be workable. What's going to happen is stores are going to stop accepting SNAP benefits. And this is going to be really hurtful to the low-income families who need this benefit to feed their kids. As the good gentleman noted, it's not required. Groceries can decide to not take this. And if we put this incredibly vague and unadministrable definition in front of them, we will simply see grocery stores not accepting this and low-income families unable to get food at all. I think we need to take a step back. Let's let the feds tackle this on a coherent basis and get a better definition that is better targeted to health. I hope you'll give this your red light.
Further debate on the motion? Hearing none, would the gentleman with 3 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do appreciate the good lady from 18's debate. However, I would argue that, again, I don't think this is too difficult for our retailers, and I don't think they're going to pass on a $113 billion budget in order just to, because they're having the difficulty just figuring out which food should fall under there. We've also been to many grocery stores that say, SNAP accepted, WIC accepted. So again, I don't think that's burdensome on the folks enrolled in the SNAP program. So again, I would just ask for your green light. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 109 pass the House? Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast their votes.
All right, folks, you're watching the vote here.
Has every member voted?
Ago on the House floor, House Bill 109, and looks like it's going to be a tight squeeze through here.
Clerk will lock the record the roll. 38 ayes, 32 noes.
Many different opinions on this. Some come from the Democrat standpoint, Rubel. Others from the point where that says, the government shouldn't be dictating what we eat. All sorts of different arguments on this particular topic. But the bill passed, and it will be transmitted over to the Senate, where the debate will continue. So that's great. All right, folks, welcome to Idaho Signal. Matt Edwards here. It is March. We are in March already? Holy cow, we are in March, you guys. Can you believe it? We launched, what was the first day? January 6th, I think. J6 was when we carried Governor Little's address live. And now we're in March. We got all the way through January, got all the way through February, and now it's March 3rd. That's incredible. The Senate started early today, 10:45 in the South, 9:45 in the North, and now they've been at ease for a while. So I don't know what's going on down there in the Senate, but they're at ease. And the House continues to run through some bills. There's a few bills that we're going to be paying attention to and see if they come up. That was one of them that happened just before we went live, the SNAP benefits bill. And so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. And we'll give you some updates on some other the bills that we're watching here at Idaho Signal and at Citizens Alliance and things that we're paying attention to. But as the day goes on, the morning committees were added again. And there were some interesting things that happened across the board. You know what's fascinating about a bunch of the bills that come through is the fact that they'll come in, they'll have questions, they'll have some pushback. Maybe they start sailing through, and then they meet some resistance on the other side of the Capitol. That goes from the Senate to the House and the House to the Senate. And then folks will have to come in with a new RS, a new printing of a bill to address some of the questions that came up. And so we start to see how certain bills are like, wait, that sounds familiar. Didn't we already have that bill? Didn't they already vote on that bill? And so you can be confused too on where bills are throughout the process. So you might be wondering, hey, why isn't House Bill, a low number? I don't want to out a House bill right now, but why isn't this bill going through? Why is it stopping? And we gotta rally the troops, when you didn't realize that it got replaced by a different bill down the line, and it's been moving forward as it should be. There's always a lot to pay attention to. So I appreciate you folks jumping into the show here and following us along as we go through this. 298. No, I'm looking for 298. 298 might be an interesting bill. 299 is on the House floor right now. But I guess a couple of bills that we're watching. House Bill 268. We talked about this on Friday. I'm calling it the You're Fired bill, the You're Fired Act. This would allow people to be fired at will should they do a bad job in our bureaucracy. There's certain positions that can't get fired right off the bat. If they performed poorly or they put the state at risk or something like that. And Representative Josh Tanner presented that on Friday, and it's already on the third reading calendar for today. So if that pops up, we'll pay attention to that and see if it moves forward. Okay. Very good. So like I said, this morning was fascinating. We'll have Brian Allman on here later, I believe, a little bit more towards the top of the hour. And then, of course, we've got some calls out to some other legislators to join us if they aren't too busy on the floor. That's how it goes. But let's start with this morning in the Senate State Affairs Committee. Senator Taves brought over House Bill 310 along with Steve Tanner. And this bill would help secure our elections. It will help make our elections more transparent, safer, more trustworthy when we have ballots that have individual markings on them. And so let's listen to this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ben Taves, represent District 4. Today before you is House Bill 310. This is really a pretty simple bill that is meant to prevent any fraud for the ballots. So essentially, it's an anti-fraud measure, and it's meant to make sure that ballots are easy to authenticate, that make sure that they're not duplicated. I'd like to hand the rest of my time over to Representative Tanner, who worked the most on this bill, if that's with your permission.
Representative Tanner. Just introduce yourself for the record, and time's yours.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Steve Tanner, and I'm representative for District 13, Seat B, which is in Nampa. And basically what this bill is, it does a lot of housekeeping, does some cleanup of existing code, which is 34901. And if you look in that code, you'll see that there's a reference there to using optical scan ballots. And there are no more optical scanners being used in Idaho, so that section of code has become obsolete. It's been superseded by better technology. And also under that heading about using optical scan ballots, if you look in line 24, it talks about using a unique marking. And that idea of unique marking has become kind of a subject of some controversy, so we wanted to clarify that as well. So if you look at the bill, and starting with line 35, we talk about assigning unique identifiers to ballots. Not all voting systems in Idaho have this capability. In fact, there's one vendor, which is Hart InterCivic, that does this. And so we provide some parameters, if we're going to use this on those systems, how that should work. And that's what that section is. Otherwise, we have other options for making sure that our ballots are more secure. that we can identify ballots and authenticate them using measures such as watermarking or using a hologram on the ballot, or also using security paper, or just simply marking on the ballot or stamping on the ballot the official election ballot. And for those counties that are still counting by hand, basically their process stays the same. So we're just noting that here as well. Now, when this bill was introduced in the House in the State Affairs Committee, 3 of the county clerks were present to testify in support of this. So we have a pretty well socialized with the clerks, and they're on board with that. And there's really no new cost to the counties. That really doesn't require them to change the way that they conduct elections today. So I'm here to ask you to pass House Bill 310 for the do pass recommendation.
Are there questions? Don't see any. Do have one signed up to testify. Hallie Johnson? Haley?
I know the spelling is very weird, thanks to my mom. Chairman Guthrie, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Haley Johnson, and I'm here today on behalf of the Idaho Association of County Recorders and Clerks. As many of you know, the county clerks review legislation from a technical perspective, just to ensure that it doesn't negatively impact our ability to securely administer elections. Representative Tanner was extremely gracious in working with us on the House side, and when we provided feedback, he was willing to make minor changes just so it didn't negatively impact our ability to administer elections. And for that reason, we are extremely supportive of this legislation.
Other questions? Don't have anyone else signed up. Is there someone else that would like to speak to this? Committee?
All right, very good. This is
would
kind
you
of like a low energy hearing this morning. It's Monday morning. The bill got through the committee there, and so we'll follow it along. Let's go over to the House now, because Representative Josh Tanner is presenting House Bill 268. This is the You're Fired Act. That's what I'm calling it. Let's pay attention.
Like Florida, Georgia, Texas moves us more away from states that we're currently more aligned with, which is like California, Massachusetts, New York. It does also bring us back into standards with the FLSA standards as well. So it does match up with those standards of those decision-making people. Somebody had asked me in committee when I was presenting this, how many employees this would actually affect. Took quite a bit of time for me to go through and figure that out. It's actually 197 positions overall through all our state agencies. So relatively small. When you look at the current non-classified list of employees, there's almost 400 that are on there. So it's just moving about 200 additional employees onto that list would be considered non-classified. So with that, I'd ask for your green light.
For the motion, for debate on the motion. Hearing none. Hearing no negative debate. Debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 268 pass the House. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast their votes.
All right, very good.
Voted.
Looks like this is going to pass along party lines, perhaps.
Thompson.
Oh no, I guess there's some. Looks like there's some dissenters from the Democrat crowd.
Clerk will lock the machine. Record the roll. 61 ayes, 9 nays.
I say that facetiously, considering the folks that are in red identify as Democrat, and some of the other Democrats don't identify as Democrat. But that's good. It's good to see that going through. That takes care of everything. Very good. Okay, so the path of least resistance for that bill would be fantastic. Great. All right. Let's do this. The Senate is still at ease. Don't know what's going on over there. The House is moving through some bills. I do want to show you an exchange that happened this morning in the in the Senate State Affairs Committee, and then we'll get Almond's take on it when he joins us in a little bit. But let's watch this. And you may or may not be confused by what's about to happen here. The merits of the bill, it doesn't really matter what this bill was about. It's about the procedures that happened during the Senate State Affairs Committee this morning. Let's watch this. Oh, well, hold on. Representative Rod Fern, I should set it up. Representative Rod Fern is headed over to the Senate State Affairs Committee with what I think was a resolution, a House concurrent resolution. And he's running it in the Senate. And the Senate agreed to hear it. And that was the setup for what happened when they were ready to then vote on it. So let's watch this.
Senator Byrne?
For a motion.
Motion's in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we send RS 31912 to print.
Not sure if that was a motion by Senator Byrne, second by Senator Rucky, that RS 31912 be sent to print. Discussion. Senator Den Hartog.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for coming in late, so maybe I missed this. I see we've got another Senate bill coming with no Senate sponsor on it, and I'm curious from the House member why we're over here in the Senate and not introducing it over in the House.
Representative Furness.
Chairman Guthrie, Senator Den Hartog. I was told that the Ways and Means Committee was shut down in the House side, so he asked me to come to the Senate side.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Byrne.
Senator Den Hartog, I'll carry the bill for him.
And this is a courtesy that the chair of this committee provided because there was no path on the other side, and it was a courtesy to a House member. So,
and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and I recognize the chair.
And on the next RS, I'm assuming you have someone on that as well. And if not, we'll probably pass on that one. So, but we do have a motion on the that RS 319 be sent to print. Further discussion? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is my error that has caused us the need to address something, and I apologize. It's in the category of no good deed goes unpunished. And when I allowed, as a courtesy for RS 31912 to be printed, it was called out appropriately so that is a House concurrent resolution, and that is not appropriate. So I believe that if we could get a motion to reconsider, and if that motion is successful, we could get a follow-up motion that RS be returned to sponsor might be the appropriate course of action. And again, committee, I apologize for that oversight. In my haste Friday, I didn't look closely at that. So again, the motions would be appreciated. Whether or not you forgive me will be up to you. Senator Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Being on the prevailing side, I move that we reconsider the RS 31912.
Have a motion by Senator Anthony, second by Senator Rucky that we reconsider RS 31912. So that is open for a motion as we reconsider that legislation. Senator Anthony.
So we have the first would be a vote on the reconsideration.
Oh, okay. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Now,
Mr.
Senator.
Chairman, I move that we hold RS 31912 in committee.
Second. Point of order. We do have a motion on an RS. Would the proper motion be returned to sponsor?
I'm happy to do that if that's the desire of the chair. I move that we return RS 31912 to the sponsor.
Second.
Motion by Senator Anthony that RS 31912 be returned to sponsor, second by Senator Den Hartog. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, committee, for correcting my mistake, and I appreciate that.
Oh man, it is Monday. It's Monday for a lot of folks. It's March. We hit March and folks are like falling all over each other. Can you imagine, folks, Let's give it up for Furnace for having to deal with what a lot of us have to deal with whenever we're dealing with government bureaucracy. You have a bill, you show up, you're like, I'd like to have this bill printed, and the committee goes, we're closed. You're gonna have to go over there. So he goes over there. He's like, I have this bill I want to get printed. They're like, sure, come on up to the window. Let's look at it. Oh yeah, we can get this passed. Actually, sir, no, you did it the wrong way. We're shut down too. You got to take your bill back. So. You got a bill with no home. You got a concurrent, and it's a concurrent resolution, so it's just a statement of whatever the heck that he wants to make. But fascinating. I believe Brian Allman is with us. If he's ready, let's bring him in here. Hey, Allman, you got the old chapeau on. You're in transit. Good to see you, my friend. Did you catch any of that? What's going on there in that committee?
Yeah, I watched the clip. I missed a few minutes or a few seconds because I was logging in here, but yeah, you're exactly right. It's the same thing that regular citizens have to deal with. We, got to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, or vice versa, or whatever. And,
yeah,
it's a little weird that he said that House Ways and Means is closed for business, because I'm looking over here. They're supposed to meet this afternoon in about an hour.
That's what I thought too. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. I looked on my schedule too and said, hey, that committee is still open. But again, maybe they're just shutting doors in people's faces. I don't know. Very
Maybe
fascinating.
they're having a little fun with Representative Furness. I don't know, but it is a reminder that they do have rules and procedures. You have the rules of the Senate, the rules of the House, standing rules. You also have Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, which is like their version of Robert's Rules that governs how they do business. And you got to do it. It is. On my show last week, I talked about an event on the House floor where the machine wasn't working, the voting machine. And in the middle of it, there was something going on in the gallery, and one of the representatives rose up and asked to address that. And the speaker responded that, wait a second, we're in the middle of a vote, even though the vote was taking a long time because it was broken. Technically, according to the rules, you're not supposed to make any motions in the middle of a vote. So
Right. Yeah.
Got to follow the rules.
Yeah. All right, guys. A little inside baseball here. We're probably getting too much into the weeds. Doesn't really matter too much, but it's always fascinating when stuff like that happens. So, Allman, one of the things, just to give you a heads up, I want to let the audience know we're going to dive into some of these bills that were presented about a week and a half ago, dealing with campaign finance, lobbying. What do they call it? Campaign materials being sent out that might be lying, penalties for lying, and defamation and libel and slander, whatever the case may be. I know they're two different definitions. We're going to get into those and dive into them and see what they're really about. Because, when it comes to free speech, when it comes to the First Amendment, things are protected, but then there's things that aren't protected. And then it also comes down to, well, whether or not they are protected, what should be the punishment if you violate it? Is the punishment too harsh? We've got the Eighth Amendment and that sort of thing. So Allman, I know you've been diving into those bills as well, and I think you've got an article up on Gem State Chronicle on that already, right?
Yeah, I wrote 2 articles last week, because there's actually 4 bills that were introduced Friday a week ago, dealing with campaigns and campaign materials. The first one is about libel, which is already on the books as a crime, but the standard of proving it is really high. This would actually raise the punishments. Right now, you can the highest punishment you can get for libel, if you're convicted in court for committing libel, which is writing false things in down, like on paper or on the internet, I guess, and they have to prove that you did it deliberately to harm someone's reputation, knowing that it was false, which is a really high bar when it comes to public figures, because people say all sorts of things about political figures and candidates, and it's very hard to actually sue. Donald Trump has done it. He's got some settlements from various networks for saying things that were not true, but usually we don't have those here in Idaho. So yeah. House Bills 306 and 307 were introduced. 306 would raise the penalties for libel from a maximum of $5,000 and 6 months in prison, or 6 months in jail, to a maximum of $100,000 and 5 years in prison, which is pretty ridiculously high. I'm not sure that bill's going to go anywhere. I think it might have just been introduced to send a message to say, hey, we're paying attention here. But we'll see. A lot of people are up in arms because it is a pretty drastic increase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll dive into all those bills this week. Also
this week. Okay.
Yeah. We'll also get a First Amendment attorney in here. We'll see if Kate Hartley can come on and talk through some of this too. So that'll be good. Yes. Okay. Well, in the meantime, so before we do that, the House Education Committee met today, and on that note, there was a bill from Representative Redmond that hold on here. Let me just double check. Yeah, Representative Redmond that kind of dealt with something similar in terms of the free speech world. Let's listen to this clip. Do we have it?
Representative, happy Monday, and for the record, and if you would please, and the time's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Jordan Redmond, representing District 3 in Kootenai County. I appreciate the good chairman in the committee letting me bring this RS forward today. RS 32528 is legislation that adds a new definition for inappropriate online behavior by students directed at public school employees. It also adds for a new disciplinary measures for handling those types of situations. This legislation was brought to me by some of the teachers back in my district that have expressed major concerns about the increasing number of inappropriate online behaviors by students with online posts that are obscene, discriminatory, and harmful to a teacher's reputation. This legislation would give the ability to handle these situations by bringing the student in front of the school board for disciplinary measures if they had indeed done some of these inappropriate behaviors. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I would kindly ask for a motion to introduce RS 32528.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions for the sponsor, Representative Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Redmond, have you talked to any lawyers or anything about this? It seems like it might be delving into some First Amendment issues on first glance.
Representative Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Harris. I don't believe that they're First Amendment issues in that oftentimes they're very graphic or a lot of times it's dealing in sexual nature about different teachers and that type of thing. So it's totally obscene and defamatory in those cases. So I don't believe that there's First Amendment issues. If they're posting something just saying, I don't like Mrs. Smith, that's one thing. But when there's lewd or crude post, I think that's where we could see more issues.
Follow up? Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. But in the language of this, it doesn't specifically target employees. It also targets other persons. And that's kind of where it gets muddied up, because now you're talking about not just employees, but you're talking about other persons. And then you're talking whether or not it occurs during or outside of school hours or on or off school property. So I have some concerns. I don't mind introducing this, but if you could reach out to somebody and maybe come back with some legal advice, a lawyer, Attorney General's office, LSO, anybody, to kind of make sure that we're going down the right path, because I do have some concerns with that.
Okay. For response, Representative Redmond.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Harris. Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to some legal counsel on that. LSO obviously has gone through this extensively, but yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Ehart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to introduce RS 32528. And as a quick comment, this is something we had brought up earlier. This is tearing people's lives apart. This is like yelling fire in a movie theater. This stuff is absolutely illegal and wrong. What's being done, it's ruining lives, and teachers are even leaving the profession over it. So what some of these kids think is fun and funny is destructive and destroys lives. So yeah, I'm happy to hear this.
Yeah, very interesting, Allman. You got two good arguments there. You've got Representative Harris's argument on the free speech First Amendment issue, because that is absolutely paramount here. But if we have crossed the line in here into defamation or slander or whatever it is when you do something online, because you could also be posting a video. It could be verbal, it could be written. I think when it comes to this libelous or slanderous material from minors about teachers, is there a case here? What's your take?
Oh, I don't know. This is all sorts of cans of worms here.
Yeah,
and it can go in a lot of different directions. Obviously, we do have laws about slander and libel already that are on the books, and that's what that bill that we were talking about earlier actually is trying to amplify. There's also concerns about should schools have authority over what students do outside of school? And it starts, the internet really, when we get down to it, has completely redefined a lot of things that we once just had figured out in our society. Where does the border of school end? If you have, a student saying something in private 50 years ago to friends about their teacher, that's one thing. Or even, maybe, if they're a talented artist drawing, inappropriate pictures. But now you have the internet where somebody can do something or say something that's wrong or crude or lewd, as they were saying, and it can be all over the world in 30 seconds. And that can do harm to a teacher or to anyone else, really, in their professional lives. How do we address that? And that's it sounds like that's the question that Representative Ehart, Representative Redmond are trying to address. But Representative Harris's concerns are also valid. How do we be careful not to cross into criminalizing speech and going after people for things that would otherwise be protected? It's a very fine line. It's a very vague area.
It is absolutely vague, and I tend to err on the side of freedom. I mean, look, if there is some chat board or some group on whatever Snapchat or whatever thing is going on where kids are just like saying whatever it is they say, and it harms a teacher, I'm curious to hear the stories. I haven't heard the stories yet, and Representative Ehart claims that there's some stories. Obviously, Representative Redmond has seen some victims of this. So I'm curious to know what the stories are. I'm not opposed to obviously hearing all sides of this issue, but if it's not happening inside school and if it's happening just outside of school, it seems a little bit overreaching for my taste on this. So, but we'll keep tabs on it. All right, folks. Alman, I don't know where you're headed, but there's an interesting bill that came in that we want to get to in terms of following where the money goes when it heads off to the schools. So why doesn't we take a quick break? The Senate is still at ease. The House has recessed for the moment. They'll be back later today at 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific, and so they'll go through some more bills then. But stick around. We'll be back with Alman in just a minute.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
Okay. All right, Alman, let's check this out. So this morning in that same committee, the Education Committee, Representative Harris came forward with sounds like a very simple bill. Let's listen to how he presented it.
Today before you is RS 32540. It's a pretty cut and dry, short half pager. It basically just states that any money that the legislator appropriates to schools is used for what it was appropriated for. We've had multiple bills this session already come through where we want to allocate, $3 million for this, $2.7 million for this. This would basically state that if we issue or appropriate monies to public or public charter schools, that the money has to be used for what it was intended for in its language when it was introduced. So math and science, money would go to math and science and nothing else. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Representative. Questions for the sponsor?
So there was a question from the sponsor, Alman. I mean, this sounds, and before we get to that, this sounds pretty simple, right? But
pretty common sense.
Pretty common sense.
Are they not already doing this?
I mean, you would think, right? You would think, why is this an issue, right? Well, let's listen to Representative Dale Hawkins here.
And I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing this forward. I think this deals with something that I found out about last year that I was actually shocked about. I know that I can't remember if we did it in 23, but the gentleman on the second floor had commented, and we had put, I think it was a $6,400 raise to teachers. And when I began to speak to teachers, I found out that many of them got 1,500 of it or 2,500 of it, and then it was sent off to other areas in the system, and that money did not go to where it was earmarked to be. So I think something like this is greatly needed. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay, Representative Hart.
Yeah, so Alman, and we've got the receipts. Last year on this program, we highlighted this story here when Jared Tetro, one of the finance guys in the department, showed up to the House Education Committee, and Representative Elaine Price asked him the following questions. This is last year. Watch this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Tatro. Two questions. First is to follow up on what Representative $30 million. You said it went to teachers. That's where it was supposed to go. It went to where the legislation said it was supposed to go. Is that correct?
Mr. Tatro.
Madam Chair, Representative Price, the legislation just says education. JFAC, rather than put 20 million here and 20 million there and have to track where it is, JFAC put it in the largest, at the time, the largest appropriation bill. But when all said and done, there's currently 7 bills. They still all get loaded into the system as public school support. So to find where that 330 is, that was what I was answering, is it's in the teacher's bill technically. But to argue, is it in teachers, is it in operations? Once everything gets transferred, it's everywhere. There is no way to track those specific dollars on the expenditure side.
Alman.
It's interesting to hear that this come up again after what you showed on the House floor earlier with Representative Josh Tanner's bill about holding federal or state employees more accountable, because that's the whole problem. Is that at the national level and at the state level, the legislature just gives away its authority. There are elected representatives. They are the lawmaking branch of government. Their job to make the laws, but oftentimes they write the laws vaguely and just hand it off to agencies and say, hey, you do whatever you must do to carry out this law, and we'll leave the details to you. And so sometimes it gets to the point, like as we see there, even if the legislature says, hey, use this money for this purpose, they're like, okay, we'll consider it. We'll maybe use part of the money for that. But we need accountability. We need the laws that our legislature passes to actually be carried out by the state agencies, by the other arms of government.
Absolutely. And we need to have people with the guts, like Representative Price, to raise these questions, Representative Tanner to stand out there and say, like, we got to hold these people accountable. And then folks like Representative Harris to say, hey, I got a simple bill. Why don't we just follow where the money goes? Like it's a no-brainer, I mean, and we've got a lot of great folks in the legislature who are trying to hold people accountable. We wanted to have Senator Christy Zitto on here later today. It looks like she's not going to, they're at ease, so they might be caucusing or something right now, but so she won't be able to make it. But I know that she's come out strongly along with some of her other colleagues on looking at the budgets and maintaining this status on saying, hey, we're looking at these budgets and we're not going to vote for anything that goes over these limits or that extends the dollar too far on such things. So we need these type of people here. These are the folks that are going there to watch out for your money, watch out for how the government is holding all of this stuff accountable. And so this is really good stuff. It sounds boring at times, but this is the stuff that makes up Doge, right? This is the Doge mentality, I think. And we need to see more of that here in the States. All right, Alman. We're going to let you go. We'll see you here tomorrow. Where can people follow you?
As usual, at Gem State Brian on Twitter. I'll let you know what's going on in the Capitol this afternoon when I get there. GemStateChronicle.com. Go back and read those 2 articles from last week about the 4 House bills dealing with campaigns and financing and lying. There's some good parts, some not so good parts. We'll see what happens when they get up for debate.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be some good stuff there. There it is. Gem State Chronicle. Head on over there. All right. Fantastic, Alman. We'll see you there. Drive safely, my friend.
Yeah. See you later.
Okay, good. All right, let's take a short, quick break, and we'll be back to wrap up the day and share with you a couple of other items that are out there. We'll see you right.
tape, you can pull the tape because we now got video.
All right, folks, welcome back. We've got we've been following, if you've been following the program, there's this bill that's been going through dealing with backyard chickens, right? And our friend Lily Allman and her team over at In the Know Idaho have taken a real liking to this bill and have been championing it. They produced a couple of videos on this subject already. But now that the bill is kind of stalled out a little bit and we're waiting for this trailer bill to come through, which they were going to vote on the Senate floor, no one's quite certain where the chicken bill is. So In the Know Idaho has taken it upon themselves to make sure that you guys stay informed. Watch this.
SOS, we're having a chicken emergency. The Free the Chickens bill has been tabled, and not in a farm fresh breakfast kind of way. This bill isn't dead yet, but it has been set aside for later, and if it doesn't become a priority again, we won't be hearing about it anymore this session. So here's what you can do. Contact the House Agriculture Committee and ask them to reconsider the chicken bill to help protect food security in Idaho. If you live in an HOA that doesn't permit you to have chickens to be able to take care of your family, or has very difficult procedures to go and change the rules, then this is especially for you. These are the people who voted to table the bill, so if these people are your representatives, definitely reach out to them. I know that they'll especially want to hear from the people who elected them. Anyone can reach out by email or phone, and again, just ask the House Agriculture Committee to reconsider this bill and give it another chance, because we would love this freedom to be enshrined in Idaho. Thanks, everybody. Excuse me. Do you want Idaho families to be able to own chickens for food security purposes? I totally agree with you.
Very good. Very good. Good friends over there with that. Okay, let's go through a few bills and get you all up to speed on where we're at on some of this. Like I said, it is now March, and it's hard to believe how fast and furious things have been going. But real quick, folks. House Bill, if you all know, House Bill 93, that was the school choice tax credit bill, which some people are super thrilled about, some people are kind of lukewarm about, some people are PO'd about for all sorts of various reasons. But the fact of the matter is, it is now law. So if you are a parent with a child that is no longer in public school and you want some tax credit relief from the state to help with the offset the cost of educating your child outside the public school system, then you can apply for a refundable tax credit. That bill has passed. It got signed into law last week, and that's where it's headed. It has a $50 million cap, so not everybody is going to be able to receive these tax credits. There is a priority list when it comes to low-income earners on up in terms of being able to apply for that tax credit when it comes around. So I'm sure the governor's office and I'm sure the state of Idaho will issue out some information on how that program works. Even getting an advance, I think there's even a possibility of getting an advance on your tax credit in order to help pay for your schools, for your private education, homeschooling, co-ops, whatever it is that you can submit receipts for educating your child. So that's House Bill 93. That is out the door and it is now law. One bill that we're also awaiting is House Bill 32. Folks, this is the mask mandate bill. It is now officially on the desk, of the governor. And when it hits the desk, it has 5 business days to get assigned. And so right now, if I'm looking at the daily tracking sheet, House Bill 32 made it to the governor's desk on the 27th, and he has until March 5th at 11:22 a.m. So we'll be live on the show. We'll be live in 2 days. He has until then to sign the bill. So here's what we need you to do. We need you to call the governor's office, 208-334-2100, or you can go to I had the website. I forget what it was. We have so many different websites. I should have been prepared. But just call the number. Just call. There it is. You can also talk to him about Major David Worley. But that's the number, 208-334-2100, to get him to sign House Bill 32. It's on his desk, and he has 2 more days to sign this thing. If he doesn't sign it, folks, it becomes law no matter what. It just doesn't have his signature on it. He also has 2 days to veto it. And he has a record on going back on this sort of thing, because if you all recall, during 2021, Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan was acting governor while Governor Little was out of the state, and she issued an executive order saying that school boards and other places they couldn't implement mask mandates. And then all of a sudden the mask mandate was gone across the state. And then he came back and tore up that order and said, no. This is all still in the hands of local municipalities, school boards, and the such. So he has ripped up an order to free us from masks before. So don't think he won't do it again. And that's why we need to call, folks. That's why we need to be vigilant, and we need to call. So that's where that bill is. 208-334-2100. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at else. House Bill 270. This deals with indecent exposure. That passed the House 59-8, and it's been sent over to the Senate. This bill adds that ridiculous language that we need apparently now, where men, if you're a man and you have female presenting breasts, you can't expose them in public. On the same token is also the indecent sexual exhibition. You can't have these sexual exhibition, these dances, whatever it is, in front of children. That passed the House 54-11 and was sent over to Senate State Affairs. I'd be curious here. It's a 54-11 for the no dancing in front of kids, no sex dancing in front of kids, and 59-8 if you're just a man that shows his female breasts. I'd like to see the cross section of those votes. Who thought it was good one way or the other? Who knows? An upsetting bill is House Bill 139 that stops the no excuses absentee ballots. That failed in committee. It failed on a tie vote, so it was 7-7 to advance the bill. And you need to break the tie in order for a bill to move forward. So it tied in committee, and that's it. That's the end of that bill. So we got to wait till next year if we want to reform the absentee ballots. So we got to pay attention to that. We've been watching the of Medicaid expansion repeal, or guardrails, some sort of guardrails to get our Medicaid expenses under control. We've seen this thing balloon from a $300 to $400 million program to a 1.6, something along those lines, $1 billion program. It's out of control. And all it will do is bankrupt regular Medicaid. So the folks that actually need Medicaid, the elderly, right? The disabled, the low economic, like severely disabled, poor people who need Medicaid. If we keep allowing able-bodied young people to get onto Medicaid, they're going to bankrupt the whole system. So we need these guardrails, or we need to repeal it altogether. There has been like at least 2 RSs that have come through to I guess modify the existing bill that already passed the House before it goes over to the Senate. So right now the latest bill is House Bill 345, and so that'll be the one that we'll pay attention to as it makes its way throughout the House again and then into the Senate. The Senate, we were expecting to vote on Senate Bill 1027. This is the no debanking bill. This would tell banks and creditors and such that, like, you can't deny somebody services simply because of their religious belief, right? If they want to open an account or they're operating in a business, you can't just blanket target them and say, no, you can't have a bank account. And because we've seen this across the board, where we've seen people just like all of a sudden lose their ability to bank because their industry is deemed too extreme or too crazy to deal with. And we're not talking about criminal activity here. We're just talking about normal everyday people who may have like an armory business or something. You know, I mean, it's happened. And so Idaho is going to go on record and say that's not going to happen here. So that's good. And then one that's near and dear to my heart is House Bill 240. This is the free speech bill, campus having free speech on campus. That bill passed Education Committee and is on the reading calendar, on the second reading calendar for today. And after today, it'll be on the third reading calendar for the rest of the week, and we'll see if that gets voted on. So very good there. All right, folks, just some of the bills that we're keeping track of. If you have a bill that you want to keep track of, I know I see sometimes in the comments that the cloud seeding bill, maybe we should find out where the cloud seeding bill is. If you have a bill or you want us to pay attention to something, or you want to learn more about and you can't find out a way, leave us a voicemail. There it is, right there, 208-402-4915. Give us a rant. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell me what I'm open to criticism. I love criticism. You can only get if you're not getting criticized and you're not being told how to do things better, then you're never going to get better. So we welcome that here. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Be kind though. I don't have to blow me out of the water, but be kind. 208-402-4915 is the number to call. Leave us a voicemail. It can be 30 seconds to a minute. We just want to hear what's on your mind, and we're happy to share it with the rest of Idaho across Idaho Signal. Remember, folks, if you can keep your message concise and you can cut through the noise, all the better. Tunnel Lord here has a message. What does it say? It says it would be better to just deregulate the banks in Idaho so they can be better than the national banks. Well, amen, brother. I'm all for that. The more we can do in the state to make ourselves seemingly more of a sovereign state, the better. So I'm with you on that. Okay. The other thing I wanted to share with you, where is it? Where did it go? Oh, it's right in front of me. Folks, if you're up in the north, and I believe this made its way down south too a couple times, but this is the issue. This is the latest issue of the People's Pen. I got it right here. This is the latest issue of the People's Pen. Some great cover artwork. The People's Pen always has great cover art by Dan Brannon, the artist Dan Brannon. And Dan Brannon also did the art on our Constitution, our pocket Constitution. Did you know we have a pocket Constitution, folks? We haven't talked about that in a while. I'll get to that in a moment. But real quick, this is the People's Pen. The reason I'm holding this up is, on the back is a great ad for Idaho Signal. But inside is a 4-page, 8-page spread. I sat down with the editor of People's Pen a couple of weeks ago, and we did an interview, and he printed this thing. Well, yeah, sure, you can show the picture, but I got it live right here, you guys. I got it live. Here it is. There it is, folks. Yeah, we just go through the history of Idaho Signal, what Citizens Alliance is all about, a little bit about my background, and basically some of the wins, some of the things we're learning as we go through this. So it's a great spread, and I encourage you, if you're in the North Idaho area, to pick up a copy of the People's Pen. I think if you go, I think there's a place, if you go online, you can go to the line at thepeoplespen.com/subscribe and just subscribe, and they'll send one to you in the mail. So very good for our friends over there at the People's Pen. All right, folks, it's Monday. We're just getting started for this week, so we'll see what happens. There's going to be some programming notes coming up. We'll tell you a little bit later about in the week. I'll be traveling again, but we will definitely keep tabs on stuff. Please use that voicemail. Give us some direction. Tell us where to go. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. It's fantastic. Same thing if you're on Facebook. Thank you for watching us over on Facebook. However, I encourage you right now, go to Rumble. Go to Rumble, type in Idaho Signal, and click follow. Okay, get an account at Rumble. It's your backup spot. It's a backup spot for everything. When we're talking about free speech, when we're talking about the man shutting you down over on Facebook and YouTube, you need to have an alternative. So if you are watching on any of those two platforms, go to X and go to Rumble and follow us over there. So right now, click over to Rumble. We'll give you some time to do so, and and we'll have that over there. All right, folks, it's great to see you. Great to be with you. We're going to have a fun week. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.
I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.